these four aspects of the proof that Imam al-Tahawi found with Abu Hanifa and his two companions. So Ahl Sunnah, in the issues of Al-Aqeedah, the evidences that they use to deduce the matters of the creed are Al-Quran Al-Kareem. When we say the Quran, not everything in the Quran relates to Aqeedah. So there are ayat, verses that are about Aqeedah. These are the verses that are evidence for the issues of Aqeedah. You follow? There are some verses of the Quran that just talk about stories. They're not related to the creed. There are some verses that relate to al-ahkam, to rulings, judgments. We're not talking about those verses. We're talking about verses relating to the creed, the Aqeedah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. As I mentioned, the hadith, so in the creed, their position was the hadith must be of the highest levels of authenticity and in the way they're narrated, right? Because Aqeedah cannot be on the issue of one person. It needs to be of groups. Because one person can be mistaken, right? Even if he's trustworthy, like I made a mistake, right? It's one person. But all y'all didn't make a mistake, right? I was quick to correct you. So you kind of see why the group will identify the mistake of one. So when we're talking about the creed, that's why that's important, right? You follow? So Allah taught us something by my slip, right? One person can make a mistake. So when we talk about hadith, and this is for future lessons, I'm not going to go into the details right now. Sometimes the people of misguidance, they use as evidence hadith that don't reach this level. And they base their creed on that. If you don't realize that, you're going to think, I'm not following the hadith, I'm rejecting the hadith because he gave me a hadith and that's what he understood from it, and you're going to understand something wrong. An example of that, without going into details, is the hadith that it's always used, that they use to tell you that Allah is in heaven or above the throne. Hadith al-Jariyah, the hadith of the slave girl, is an example of that. Later we'll go into details about it. But that hadith is not an evidence for that. But it is the foremost hadith that they put for you. And I know y'all have heard people come to you and say, where's Allah? Wal-iyadhu billah. For multiple reasons, this is not a proof. But nevertheless, when we're talking about hadith, you need to know these things. And other matters. Ijma' al-Sahaba, or Ijma' al-Sahaba, the consensus of the companions. It's talking about Abu Hanifa and his companions, radiallahu ta'ala anhum. That means the Sahaba, they have agreement on certain things in the creed, and you need to know what they are. There are matters that they differed, and then there are matters that there was complete agreement among them. Those matters which are complete agreement upon them, we can't differ in them. There is a book written by one of the famous scholars. His name is Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi. Write this. Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi. He died in the year 428. He has two main books. related in a way about Aqeedah, but also talking about the various groups besides Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. In that book, one is called Usul al-Din. These are important books. One day when you're building your library, these are books that should be in your library. And the other one, which is the one I'm referencing, is called Al-Farqu Bayn al-Firaq. The difference between the various groups or factions, right? He died in the year 428, 5th century, 428. So he was in the early Muslims. He was among the students of Imam al-Ash'ari. He mentions in this book different groups, factions. At the end of the book, he has a section on issues in the creed that Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah have complete agreement on them. Right? There is ittifaq. There is agreement on these issues. Among them, to give you an example, he mentions from the companion Ali ibn Abi Talib that Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu said in his statement, كان الله ولا مكان وهو الآن على ما عليه كان. What did he say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala existed fil azal, eternally, without a beginning. ولا مكان, and there was no place. وهو الآن, and he is now على ما عليه كان, as he always was. Where did he mention this? He mentioned this in the section, Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi, of issues that they have consensus upon them. And he mentioned the narration of who? Sayyidina Ali, who was a leader among the companions. Then he followed it with another statement that Sayyidina Ali said, إن الله خلق العرش إظهارا لقدرته ولم يتخذه مكانا لذاته. Which means, verily Allah, He created Al-Arsh as a sign of His power, to manifest His power, not to take it as a place for Himself. This is Sayyidina Ali, whom is related about him that the Prophet ﷺ said, أَنَا مَدِينَةُ الْعِلْمِ وَعَلِي بَابُهَا. I am the city of knowledge, and Ali is its door, its gate. But, so here's the statement. So this one is bringing this hadith that didn't reach this level to apply a place to Allah. And we have among the companions those who negated the place for Allah. You follow? And where was it mentioned? By the great scholars in the issues where there's agreement and consensus. He said, they agree, Ahl-Sunnah wa ajma'u, they agree, they have consensus that Allah la yahwi makan. He's not contained in a place. You see how this issue becomes important? It's an important issue, right? It's not an issue that's up for debate, even though people make it a debate. When we understand the consensus of the scholars among the Sahaba, and then the consensus of the scholars after them is even more evidence of that. At every generation, the head leading scholars of each level of our nation of Ahl-Sunnah had this belief. Right? So it's important to understand that. That's our religion. Then the fourth thing is what? The fourth proof I mentioned.
Intellectual proof.
Intellectual proof.
Al-Barahin al-Aqliya. Al-Barahin al-aqliya. Intellectual proofs. Which tells us in our religion, the intellect has consideration. Reason has consideration. As Allah mentioned in Surah Al-Mulk, وَقَالُوا لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ مَا كُنَّا فِي أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. Allah mentions, and when the people of the hellfire will say, had we listened and used our intellects, we would not be the people of the hellfire. From this verse, and all of you know Surah Al-Mulk, right? You should recite it every night. So learn it. The Prophet wished that it would be in all of our hearts. And it is a protection from the torment of the grave. So learn it. Recite it. Even if you don't memorize, read it every night. It is a protection. You go to sleep, you're getting close to death. Be prepared. But they use in this verse two aspects. That you have a sama', which is a naql, which is revelation. They heard the words of the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's hearing, that's transmission. Not only hear it, what? You need to use your mind to understand and reflect, to see the truth in it. Is the combination. Had the intellect had no consideration, they could have just said, had we not heard, we would have not been in there. He said, no, let's say that. We not heard and what? Naqilu, and use our intellects. Both. This is the Quran, which is a proof. Allah told us in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. We made it an Arabic Quran for what? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. To use your intellects. So it's the Quran. But still you need to use what? Intellect. So the proofs of the intellect is a part of our religion. Why? Because the intellect is a witness for the truthfulness of the sacred law. Al-aql shahidun li sihhati shara'. The mind is an evidence for the truthfulness of the sacred law. How do we know Islam is true? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets with miracles that others could not match. And the sound mind say that they received these miracles. They told about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one can match what they did. They must be truthful. That's how we learn. We use our intellect to arrive at the truthfulness of revelation. Right? So whenever we learn the creed, especially the foundations of the creed, we're going to have two types of evidence. Ad-dalil al-naqli wa ad-dalil al-aqli. We're going to have textual proofs and intellectual proofs. This is the methodology of Ahl Sunnah. Not one say, don't use your mind. No. The prophets came to people of sound intellects to call them. Right? So Allah tells us that the mind is needed to reflect on the truthfulness of the Quran. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Do they not reflect and ponder on the Quran? You use your mind to do that. التدبر بالعقل. Reflecting and pondering comes from your mind. It's a part of the religion. So these are evidences of Ahl Sunnah. Not something we just pull out of our hats or our pockets. So whenever you study Aqeedah in the traditional way, you're going to find the textual proof. What else also? The intellectual proof. Look at Imam Abu Hanifah. Dalil al-Aqli. He was having a debate with atheists. Discussion. They made an agreement to meet in the center of town to have a public debate at a specific time in front of the people. Subhanallah, look at the aql of Imam Abu Hanifyyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So they assembled. And at the time, Imam Abu Hanifyyah didn't arrive on time. He intentionally came late. And they was like, see, he's not going to show up for the debate. And then he came. And they said, what held you? He said, I have an excuse. He said, you know, I'm on the other side of the river to read here. So I came to the bank of the river and I didn't have a way to get across, no boat. So I couldn't make it. So I sat at the bank of the river and I thought how to get across. Then all of a sudden, I heard a saw cutting trees and I saw branches fall to the bank of the river and they have formed themselves into a boat. And I jumped in that boat and I came across the river and that's how I met you. And they looked at it and said, you're crazy. This is impossible. He said, you mean the heavens and the earth and the stars and the sun and the moon was made without a maker? If you didn't accept it for just leaves, what is far greater? You said they didn't have a maker? They embraced Islam at his hands. He didn't mention Quran, he didn't mention Sunnah. What did he use? Dalil al-Aqli. Intellectual proof. So, you cannot come to a person who doesn't believe in the Quran and the Hadith. How are you going to produce the validity of the religion if you don't use intellectual? They don't believe in your book. You can't say Allah said and the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't believe in Allah or the Prophet. Islam is still equipped to deal with that. You follow? Now you understand why all of those proofs are necessary. From the Quran. Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah is a well-oiled machine. We just have to learn it well and master it. Then he said, وَمَا يَعْتَقِدُونَ مِنْ أُصُولِ الدِّينِ. And what they believe from the foundations of the religion. Here, what they believed of the foundations of the religion is different when we're talking about the branches. You have usul. I need you to get two words. Usul, furu. Foundations, branches, details. There are some matters that are foundational. Our concern is not contradicting things in the foundational matters. As for the details, there can be differences. So when we're talking about al-madahib al-islamiyya, Islamic schools of thought, in terms of jurisprudence, al-fiqh, that's where you find difference because that's branches. As for the foundational matters, we cannot differ. Right? In the foundational matters of the religion, there is no difference. Now, those foundational matters are the essentials of the creed, which Ahl-Sunnah have agreement on.
So in back of Sheikh Mansour's book, those are the things basically. Abu Mansour, those are the things that he's basically have listed.
Yeah, it's at the end of the book.
Okay.
He's going to go through all the groups, different groups, and he's going to tell you their beliefs.
So it's based on those essentials. It's based on
right, where they contradict the essentials. Yeah. Then at the end, he's going to tell you all of what Ahl-Sunnah among the different matters of the belief, and even some things in practice that they agree upon. And this is early work, right?
You said he was born, he came around 429?
Yeah, that's his death.
Okay.
So he lived between the 4th and 5th century. And he's one of the famous scholars of Ahlul Sunnah. It's not like some, but these are top level ulama. Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, he didn't meet Abu Hanifa radiallahu ta'ala or his two companions. Rather, their knowledge reached him with an unbroken chain. Listen, listen, listen. This is important. We have a lot of people who are teaching a religion without any sense of authority. What do I mean? I'm not talking about scholarly. I'm talking about from whom did you learn? Who accepts that you convey the religion from their route? Don't ignore this issue. If someone is teaching, he should have teachers who approve of him. And those teachers should be approved by teachers before them in a continuous way back to the Prophet ﷺ. Not fake affiliation. That's my sheikh, but he doesn't approve of you. He doesn't know you. He doesn't verify your understanding. How is he your sheikh? Tell me. If you bring the sheikh, he's going to say, I didn't teach him that. He only learned this amount. He didn't learn that. Real sheikhs, they know what you learn from them. They write it down because it is their legacy you're conveying. So they write. And they'll write for you. So-and-so learned this from me. Some of them are so priced, meaning he can narrate from me, but he can't teach. He understands, he heard it, but he's not qualified to teach it. Right? They're that precise. He can teach this, but he can't teach that. Right? We need to return this. Right? Especially because this is a special merit of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, al-Isnad. And not just for barakah, not just for blessing, for actually at-tadris, with ta'lim. Because you have different types of sheikhs. Write this down. This sheikh game, we gotta stop. Because, we hear sheikh too much. And we hear sheikh to the point we don't even respect sheikhs no more. Sheikh. Don't call nobody sheikh. Stop that. Unless they're a real scholar. We gotta get out of that habit. Because it's harming us. Basically, there are three types of sheikh. Traditionally, among Ahl Sunnah. You have Sheikh al-Tarbiyah. Sheikh al-Tarbiyah. Meaning the sheikh who spiritually trains you. That means he is a spiritual guide and you're his disciple. That's the relationship. He's taking you along the spiritual path to ma'rifatullah, to realization of Allah. That's one sheikh. This is a special relationship. And it's not given just to anybody. That means you have a special bond with your sheikh. Like this doesn't come apart. You're connected. You are him and he is you. You're one. Right? This is real stuff I'm talking about. Not, he doesn't even know who you are. My sheikh. If you sat in front of him, man anta, who are you? It's not real sheikh. Not for that. He doesn't even know you. That doesn't mean you cannot benefit from him. That doesn't mean you can benefit from his state, but you can't make this type of claim. You can benefit. He can just look at you. You benefit from his state. We're talking about tarbiyah, training. That's a whole different story. And we must have that because we, as a people, got a lot of stuff we got to fix. All of us. I'm going to be a little real. I work on my nigga every day. Seriously. No, I'm not joking. I mean, it sounds like that. You said that? Yeah, I mean it. I work on my nigga every day. Because sometimes my nigga want to jump out. And all y'all know, that's why y'all laughing. And imagine all of us feel that, and you imam. So how? Because we get disrespected. But if I bring out my joker, you won't disrespect me like that. But you got an advantage because I'm imam and you can get away with it. If I knock you in your head, I'm gonna be blameworthy. So I gotta work on that, which I should, because I shouldn't be like that. All of us are like that. That's why we need Sheikh Tarbiyah to show us how to overcome that stuff. Right? When someone is doing us, to overlook, to pardon, to pray for that person, you need to be trained to do that. We don't like to put ourselves down. We like to lift ourselves up. Who you talking to? You. You talking to me? Yeah, you. You know who I am? Yeah. You're wasted fluid in a decaying corpse. That's who you are. None of us feel that way, right? You're wasted fluid in a decaying corpse. That's you. So why not you? That's tarbiyah. We don't feel that way. We like Iblis sometimes. And khayru minhu. I'm better than you. In the feeling, we might not say it. Who this joker talking to? Who's she talking about? You. I'm talking about tarbiyah. I'm speaking to us in a language we understand. Excuse me if I ain't politically correct. But y'all understand exactly what I'm saying. Correct. You need someone to teach you that. You need to watch someone be abused and overcome his desire. There is one of the teachers of my teacher, and I met him personally, but I learned some things, but I didn't learn with him. Some things. He was little Abu Hanifa in our time. He was the Sheikh of the Umayyad Mass in Damascus, Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Halabi, rahimahullah. They called him little Abu Hanifa. He is a senior scholar. He died, rahimahullah. He was the teacher of my teachers. And I said, I did meet him, and I did study some things from him, but not long, right? And not a lot. When he was raising money for his school, which was established by Sheikh Salih Furfur, the author, he went to a shop owner and asked for donations for the school. And that shop owner was arrogant. He spit in his face. Really? Yeah, really. He spit in his face. He's the Sheikh of the Umayyad Masjid. He's one of the foremost scholars in Damascus. They call him Little Abu Hanifa. He spit in his face. The Sheikh said, that was for me. Now what are you going to give for the students? Any of us can take that? That was for me. I accept. What about for the students? Ikhlas. Humbleness. For us, that's fighting words. We forget the students now. It's tarbiyah. I'll tell you a story. Sheikh Samir did this to me. And it showed me a lot about myself. He gave me the most troublesome student in our group and said, you take him. I failed miserably. But nevertheless, he gave him to me. You take him. I'm like, Sheikh, I try to come up with every excuse in the world not to be responsible for this person. Sheikh said, no, you. I'm poor. They got more money. They got extra rooms. I was trying to find everything to get out of it. You. And that guy worked my nerves. And we were having students. He worked my nerves, the students' nerves, everybody. We'd go in class every day, just a mess. And he reached to the point, he got me and he brought that guy out. In front of the students, I went off. He said, I'm going to tell the Sheikh. I said, I don't care who you tell. You getting out of here. And the Sheikh, he did tell the Sheikh. And the whole time when I'm going to see the Sheikh, I'm like, I'm in trouble. And he said, did you learn anything? I said, yeah, I'm a mess. He said, go apologize to him. You're supposed to be the teacher. You're supposed to be the one that he's going to get stronger with. And you failed him. You failed him. To this day, I've been still trying to make up. I mean, the guy accepted. But to this day, I'm still trying to make up for him.
Did he turn out to be a good, better student?
He's the same person. But guess what? He's always coming to learn. So you just got to be patient.
No doubt.
Didn't we learn that? Where do we learn that in the Quran? Story.
Musa, they said.
Musa.
No doubt.
What did Khadir say to him? You're not going to be patient with me.
No doubt.
Right? Not going to be patient. There's a lesson of tarbiyah in training as for us. How to be patient. How to not see, sometimes we don't see wisdom in things. Why you do that? Why you do that? Why are you sitting there with me? Right. Training. Do you get my point? When we don't have that relationship, we're going to fall short. Because we're left to our own desires. And when we get our own desires, you know what we're going to incline to. Al-ajizu man atba'a nafsahu wa tamanna ala Allah. Al-ajizu man atba'a nafsahu wa tamanna ala Allah. The deficient one, the ignorant one, is the one who follows his desires. Nafsahu hawaha wa tamanna ala Allah. And rely on Allah. But you follow your desires. Have you not seen the one who takes his desires for God? Is that not what we go through? The tarbiyah, Sheikh of tarbiyah is going to fix that. He's going to show you your blameworthy characteristics so you can get rid of them. But that takes years. Years. That's not a week's journey. Some people, they arrive at the blinking of the eye. This is not everybody. Most people, years. I accompanied one of my teachers for 15 years, and I'm not like the dirt under his sandals. I watch him and I just be like, how does he do it? I cannot do it. But we need training, right? So that's one type of sheikh, which is called sheikh what? Spiritual training. Then you have sheikh al-ta'lim. Sheikh al-ta'lim. This is the sheikh who's for teaching and instruction. He's not a spiritual guy. But he's going to educate you in the various Islamic sciences. So he's a teacher. He's a sheikh, but his function is to teach you. That's it. He's not going to fix your nafs. That's not his job. His job is just to properly teach you the religion. Which is how we're learning. We're learning books, we're learning knowledge, we're learning hadith, we're learning Quran. So, the sheikh that was on the phone that gave you the advice, for me, Sheikh al-Ta'lim. Do I get aspects of tarbiyah? Yes, but that's his job is for teaching me. So, you get that learning, right? Then, so all of us must have Sheikh al-Ta'lim. Now, when they're talking about this, really even in both aspects, من ليس له شيخ من لا شيخ له فشيخه شيطان. The one who doesn't have a teacher, his teacher's the devil. من لا شيخ له فشيخه شيطان. And shaitan's going to work what? Through his nafs. He doesn't have a teacher. No one to stop him. No one to correct him. No one to say you're wrong. You misunderstood the judgment. No one to put him in his place. We must have teachers so that we don't pervert the religion. It's a must. I need to be honest with us. Seriously. We know us as a people. We know ourselves. Y'all heard the Eddie Murphy jokes? I know, all y'all Sufis. I got it.
Maybe they're too young.
They're not too young for Eddie Murphy. I'm looking at all this gray around here. Remember he said in one of his jokes, you give a black man, he said the other word, a rope, you want to be a cowboy?
Oh, yeah.
Look, oh yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that's us. Give him an inch, we're going to take 3. You know how it is. So we got to have teachers so we don't do that. And when we do it, someone says, get back in your place. Right? But if there's no teachers around, there's no one to say, you made a mistake, fix it. We're liable to do anything. We're liable to make a new religion and still call it Islam. Deenun Jadid, a new religion, but we call it Islam. Am I lying?
No.
What do you think the Nation of Islam was?
Yeah. Ansar Allah.
What do you think Ansar Allah was? What do you think Moore Science Temple was? They got one guy in Kansas City, he said he's God. He's Allah. A'udhu Billah. Solomon. Y'all never heard of this guy? Y'all never heard of him?
It's like an off-break of the nation.
Yeah, it's an off-break. No, he's the real successor of Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that guy before. Yeah.
Y'all never heard of this?
I heard of him. I've seen him.
You got to know the Firaq in your time. There are people that are listening to him. There are people who moved. I have family who moved with him. And today send me stuff all the time. Talking about Father, Allah said, A'udhu Billah, Ya Habibi. No, I'm not joking. They're in Kansas City. They have your barbershop, your grocery store that belongs to me. But they call Islam. And they say we Muslims. But it's a new religion. So if we don't have this connected chain, we won't even realize it's a new religion. We won't realize it. The narration of Abdullah ibn Mubarak. Y'all know Abdullah ibn Mubarak. I told y'all, right? He's from What generation?
He said that this man is a
The
part
generation after. That's
of
back.
anyone can say whatever they like.
So he said, and it's in Sahih Muslim, in the introduction,
That's all.
he said, Al-Isnadu min ad-deen, walau la isnad laqala man sha ma sha. We heard that. There is more to that narration. That it says, whenever one report, we say, from whom do you relate? Man haddathaka. From whom do you relate? And the person becomes silent. Don't have isnad, don't have chain. Right? Muhammad ibn Sirin, he said, in the past, we used to not talk about the isnad. But when the fitan started, when sedition started, we say, Sammu lana rijalakum. Name your men. From whom you learning? Name your men. This is Sahih Muslim. Sammu lana rijalakum. Who relate? Who approve of you? He said we would take the narrations of Ahl Sunnah and we would leave the narrations of Ahl Bid'ah. That's our religion. Imam Tahawi starts like that. That's a lesson in itself. Just the beginning. There are so many valuable things in that because by way of this, that's how we can practice our religion. There's not such thing as pirates in Islam. Pirates. What do I mean by pirates? People who's speaking about the religion with no connection. In hadith, when we say a hadith is da'if, weak, what is among the major indications of weakness in a hadith? Anyone knows? What about the chain? Broken. Among the major signs that a narration is weak, therefore we don't act according in rules and judgments, is that the chain is broken. Don't take this as bad. There is a saying in Arabic. They say, فَاقِدُ شَيْءٍ لَا يُؤْتِيهِ. The one who doesn't have a thing can't give it. Don't take that bad. Acquire it. Learn it the proper way. Don't get mad. Learn. Don't take your ball and run. Learn. I'm not playing with you no more. Learn. It's an obligation. In the religion, you must learn. Our young people, well, not now, he's back. We used to have a time, you must learn. Remember that was coming up? Yeah, right? That's true Islamically. The Prophet said, طَالِبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيدَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. Seeking knowledge is an obligation of every Muslim. You got to learn. You can't remain ignorant. As Al-Habib Abdullah bin Hussein bin Tayyir, he said, these matters, it's not permissible to be ignorant of them. It's haram to be jahil in these matters. Haram, unlawful. We have to learn. Stop thinking about ourselves. Listen, I've read something. And I'll show you, remind me when I come back. One of the teachers who we relate from his route, he's a big sheikh in Azhar. Sheikh Usama Sayyid. He's one of the stars of Al-Azhar today. Sheikh Usama Sayyid. If you hear him speak, he'll blow your mind with his eloquence. He's one of the superstars. We didn't meet with him. We relate from his route. Among our brethren who related from him, whom we relate from. He wrote a book about the biography of Azhari scholars in the past few centuries. It's 10 volumes, right? Just in the last 2 centuries, right? So I'm reading this book, and I find in it that in 1960, they had a delegation of Azhari scholars to America. And they went around the country teaching the knowledge and inviting students to be trained in Al-Azhar. 1960. A delegation of ulama from Al-Azhar. I want you to understand what is meant by Azhar here. Al-Azhar is known as Ka'batul Ilm fil Alam al-Islami. The center, Al-Kaaba, of Islamic knowledge in the whole Islamic world. In other words, like we face the Kaaba, when we want to learn, Al-Azhar is a focal point. 1960. Al-Azhar has this methodology. This is the manhaj of Al-Azhar. For 1,100 years, over 1,000 years, no one who was of any repute in the Islamic world, in Islamic studies, except that he has a connection to Al-Azhar. In the world, you meet a scholar, he has some connection with some way through his chains of narration, through himself, through his students, through his teachers with Al-Azhar. That's to show you its strength. Its strength. The methodology of Al-Azhar is Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Ash'ari, Maturidi, following one of the 4 schools. At-Tasawwuf with an unbroken chain of narration. Right? How do we know it? It is preserved. It's how we have it. Written, preserved. Chains of narration. Right? He said in this book about that, and he talks about the scholars from Azhar all over the world, everywhere. Right? But I thought about this. So they had a group of scholars here, giving da'wah, traveling around, and we got missed out. So what I'm teaching you was available with living scholars from Al-Azhar in 1960, but we didn't get it. Think about that. We would have been, from 1960 to 2022, what we would have produced. Let me give you an example. I have a young man in Mash, you met him, Sheikh Abdul Aziz.
Yes.
He came to me when he was 16 years old. I gave him all that I could give him. Then I sent him to Turin, Yemen, to study. He studied in Turin, Yemen. Then he moved to Egypt. He's 25 now, a graduate of Azhar, back teaching. Half of the Quran, Asanid, in Quran, and Hadith, and Fiqh. Great scholars, connection. And that was done in 6, 7 years, 8 years. What we would have done since 1960 if we would have been on it. And we have others. In our community I'm talking about, not just from my Sheikh Hamza Abdul Malik. He's in Memphis. He's Azhari, graduate. Ash'ari, Shafi'i, Sufi. He was the one who recited the Quran at Muhammad Ali's funeral. You remember the funeral? That's Sheikh Hamza Abdul Malik. He's only 39, maybe 40. I don't think he's 40 yet. 30 something, 38, 39. He finished. He studied in Turin, Yemen. He studied in Syria. He graduated from Azhar. He's in our communities. He'll be at the African American Summit. He's my friend, right? You got Ubaydullah Evans from Chicago. Young brother. Graduate. And there are others. Imagine if that, and these are, they still got a lot to go, and a lot to, but imagine from 1960, if we would have had that to now. You're talking about 62 years. We would have our own scholars instead of being flooded with Wahhabi thought. Now, go ahead. I want you to reflect on these things. You see our responsibility? We can't play games. Because if we do, what's going to happen? 60 years from now, our great-great-great-great-grandchildren are going to be saying the same thing. We have to pick it up. It's not just about us, because we're saying it now, right? We're still trying to learn basic things that we should have mastered by now. It should have been part and parcel of our Islamic curriculum. And some of us, if we be honest 1 second, and you can be honest, some of us elders been learning Ahl Sunnah for 30 years and have never heard some of the stuff I'm talking about. This is a problem. You've been learning Ahl Sunnah for 30 years and you don't know what I'm talking about? You can't just spit it out. Something's wrong with our educational system. We gotta step it up. We gotta preserve for the future generations. I know we're not like that, but we have to plant the seed. We have to be like the old folks who couldn't read and write and said, my kids are going to college. They're going to be better than us. That's how we have to be with the deen. I know we struggle with Arabic. We don't memorize. That's me. My son is not going to be like that. And my grandson is not going to be like that. I'm going to preserve so they don't be in that position. Right? That's how we have to be. And I beg you, that's what I'm trying to do in these sessions. Right? That's what we need. And not make us slaves in the process. Remain free people. I don't want you to follow me. I want you to learn and be better than me. Don't follow me. Don't even agree with me. Take what I'm saying, go research, and learn it yourself. And then you come back and say, wow, thanks. I want you to be able to go convey. I don't want you to repeat. We had enough of parrots. We need some people who can convey without being a parrot. Parrot only say what you put in it. They don't think and understand. No. We have aql. You follow? If you become like me, we failed. You have to be better. If you're like me, we failed. You have to be way better. Imam al-Haddad, quickly, 1 second. Y'all know Imam al-Haddad. When did he die? 1132. Right? Imam al-Haddad, he was known as the spiritual pole in his time, al-Qutb. Right? His teachers taught him. When they went away, they traveled because they used to go to Dawah. When they came back, they were his students. They said, we left him as his teachers, we returned as his students. And they took honor in that. We left as his teachers, we returned as his students. That's not possible for us. It is. It is. And it's a must. Especially for us. We're becoming an endangered species. Black folk. Islam is our way out. But real Islam, not our own stuff. real Islam is our way out. It's a serious matter when we think about it. I remember when I started this journey, I didn't even have a beard. I look back in my pictures in Egypt, I had one string.
Post it on Facebook.
I put it on Facebook. Go look at the picture. It's on Facebook?
Not saying you should post it.
Oh, I will. It is on there somewhere. I got one string, and you're not even going to see it. One string.
That's the one on the camera?
On the camel. Clean face. Now I got Grace, George Jefferson, and grandbabies. SubhanAllah. It goes fast. Right? It goes fast. And now I'm thinking about when I'm going to die and when I'm going to leave a legacy for my children and grandchildren. That's on my mind now. And all of us should be like that. I don't want my son or my grandson talking about this stuff as if no one did anything. The same issue. Nah. The only way they're going to do that is what? You got to educate them. I'm going to give you an indication quickly for some of you. It's an indication. Don't get explicit. Some of you watched a teacher raise their children to become your leader, become your sheikh. You watched them from kids to adults, but you didn't see the same for your own. Don't blame others. Blame yourself. Don't blame others. Don't say what they did. No, say what you didn't do. The sheikh was your sheikh, and now the children of the sheikh is your sheikh, and you don't have no sheikh. You should blame yourself for that. And don't make the same mistake tomorrow. You learn today. Don't be explicit. I just want you to understand the point. We have work to do. We can't play around. This is serious business. Even if we are not like that, don't deprive our future generations. Please don't do that. Don't be that selfish. We have to do it. We cannot afford not to do it. It's serious. And I'll stop here.
Third type of shade.
I thought it...
No. Slacking.
I hope you can feel my passion about this issue.
No doubt.
I'm not playing games. I'm willing to give my life for it. Serious. So the third sheikh, Sheikh al-Barakah. Sheikh al-Barakah. This sheikh is you just get blessings from being around them. You relate from them for the blessing. You're not to teach anything. They're not training you. Just being around them, just mentioning them, there is a blessing. Right? Sheikh al-Barakah. And it is mentioned. When the righteous are mentioned, the mercy of Allah descends. There's blessings just being around the righteous. For them to look at you. Being in their company is like this type of experience. ألا يرى بنظرة من العين الرحيمة تداوي كل ما بينا من أمراض السقيمة. Oh Allah, just by a merciful gaze from the merciful eye will cure all of the sick diseases inside of us. Allah. All of the diseases we have, just that gaze can fix it. One of the sheikhs in our Senate, Al-Habib Aydrus bin Umar Al-Habashi, radiallahu ta'ala, named my son after him. My son, Aidarus, you never hear that name. He's named after the sheikhs of my sheikh. Al-Habib Aidarus bin Umar al-Habashi. He was the Musnid of Hadramaut, the big scholar of Hadramaut. They said about him, if he gazes at you, he changes your state by looking at you. Just look at you. You don't have to say nothing. Look at you and fix everything inside. I'm hoping that by his name, maybe this guy will be like that. But that's the Sheikh of Barakah. I'll tell you a story. I was in Yemen. I went to visit his resting place, his maqam. I never forget this. So I'm standing in front of his grave. And the people, like terrorists, came by in their pickup truck with rocket launchers and guns. I never forget this picture. I'm sitting here. And in Yemen, they didn't have no government at that time. There was no government, so just bandits, like running crazy. I'm like, we're dead, dead, dead. I tell you no lie. It was as if they didn't even see us. They went right in front of us. It was as like we was invisible. I was like, wow. SubhanAllah. Because you know they snatch Americans, right? And this happened. It was as if they didn't see us. Like we was invisible. Another minhum. A gaze from them, that's it. That's the barakah of the Salihin, the righteous. And we're stripped of that. We need to have that among us, the people of barakah. So that is, so those three types of shaykh. The last one is good, but that's not what's sought after for the work we have to do. That's from the inward. But from the outward, we need the other two. And Allah knows best. Go ahead, you had the question.
That's wrong. The university, has it been really infiltrated by a lot of the Wahhabis because of the money?
Of course. Of course. Wahhabis infiltrate everywhere. Even Philadelphia. So forget Azhar. I'm joking. I'm just joking. So forget Azhar. You gotta worry about Philly.
But my point is, it's like in different areas, they more Ash'aris and Maturidis.
No, Azhar is Ash'ari Maturidi. So even the Wahhabiyah that are in Azhar, they under Azhar, they get Azhar hat. They get the clothes, and then they come teach Wahhabi stuff in the name of Azhar. So they're not Azhar. They graduated from Azhar, but they're not Azhar.
That was my point.
Right?
All right.
So there's Azhari, الذي ليس أزهريا. He's not really Azhar. Azhar is known. It's in their books. They're Ash'ari, Maturidi. Follow one of the four schools, and Sufi. Our shuyukh from Azhar are all like that. But that's Azhar. But as for what's coming, and the scholars of Azhar are dealing with this issue. Themselves, they're struggling with this. But what can we do? Sheikh Abdul Aziz is Azhari, right? I'm on him all the time. Be Azhari. Don't play games. Because we lean to stuff because we don't like conflict, right? So I don't want to argue. So I'm going to lean, right? No, we cannot be silent. What is the silent one in the face of falsehood? That's shaitan akhras. We can't be silent. We have to tell the truth. The Prophet ﷺ said, قُلِ الْحَقْ وَلَوْ كَانَ مُرًّا. Speak the truth even if it's bitter. I didn't like it. We're not trying to win a celebrity contest. We're trying to get into paradise. But all you got to do is study the curriculum of Azhar. You see Azhar is Ash'ari. To study the Azhari curriculum. Even in the classroom now, they're putting that stuff. But the traditional Azhari curriculum from generation to generation is well known. It's well known.
What did the Shiites have to do with
Ash'ari?
No, with the
Azhar was started by the Shiites.
right.
The Fatimiyya started Al-Azhar. That was 1100 years ago.
Right.
Then it became Sunni and it's remained that way. But that's old.
I know.
Yes. Azhar was founded by the Shiites.
Could you consider a Murabbi Sheikh in that category too, or is outside that particular category?
Sheikh al-Tarbiyah is Murabbi.
Yeah,
Murabbi is the one who trains you. Tarbiyah is the noun. That's the verbal noun of what he's doing. Right? The Murabbi. So when you say Sheikh in Tasawwuf, you mean Murabbi. The one who's training you. Murshid, spiritual guide.
But I guess the way that our Sheikh taught us, because he was teaching us the Deen and Tasawwuf and Tarbiyah.
Well, yeah, the Tarbiyah Sheikh teaches you. The Sufi Sheikh is a scholar.
Yes.
A real Sufi Sheikh. I'm not talking about a fake Sheikh.
No doubt.
A real Sufi Sheikh is a scholar. As they said, Allah does not take an unlearned person as a wali. مَتَّقَذَ اللَّهَ وَلِيًّا جَاهِلًا. Allah doesn't take an ignorant person for a wali. And if he did, he would teach him. So the awliya are ulama. We can ready to go to dinner, so we can go ahead and shoot your questions.
One time we had studied a book about the Sufi claimers and the Sufi fakers. I think that's good for people to know that. The Sufi claimers and the Sufi fakers. As the ones who are true Sufis and the true Sufi fakers. You know, like the ones that twirl and all that kind of nonsense.
Not like that. This is how I say learn. Follow. Let's not just quote. You want to know what the true Sufi is? You got the living teachers and you got the well-known books. Tasawwuf ain't something new. There are authoritative books in Tasawwuf. Learn those books from teachers and then you'll know what a true Sufi is. Right? Those books have reached us with unbroken chains of narration. Right? So our books of Tasawwuf are well known. Like Ihya Ulum al-Zin of Imam al-Ghazali. Right? With a continuous chain, we learn these books. We teach in them. These are books of that from generation to generation our teachers have taught and learned and studied. This is Tasawwuf. So we're not going to fall for a fake Sufi claimer because it's already linked. Right? That claimer, who's your teachers? What is their chains? What's their levels at each rank? What we say about them? Our religion is not broken. It's a protection for you. If I'm a fake, as Abdul Rashid reminded me, I may not know, but my teachers know.
Well, no doubt.
I may be mistaken, but my teachers know. And if they don't know, their teachers know. And we can point to them. Right? I'm not an imposter. I have really teachers. They're going to say, yes, I know him. I taught him this. He's wrong in this. He's right in that. And my teachers are not imposters. They have teachers. And they're not imposters. They have teachers. All of us got to be like that. This is not something special for one person. We all got to do it. You follow what I mean? We all have to do it. For us, it's important. And the goal is that we become the teachers of our children. And their children become the teachers of their children in a continuous way.
We thank you for setting the precedent for it, though. I love you.
It's been done by others. I'm just sharing, doing my part. It's here in Philadelphia. We just got to bring it out. It's here. It's a bunch of people like me, better than me, way better. They're here. You got to go bring them out. Stop letting them hide. No. They need to be out. They need to say it. They need to be explicit. Right? What's happening is this. In Philadelphia, the people of Ahl Sunnah, Ash'aris, Maturidis, Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki, Hanbali.